Welcome to the Think Factory podcast. We got one question for you. What keeps you up at night?
Welcome back to the Think Factory podcast, powered by OGC Solutions. I'm Chris Santomassimo, your host, and I'm here today with a good friend of the firm. This is Ralph Marucci, who's the CEO and co-founder of Hydr8. Just so you can find Ralph, and he'll talk more about it later too, but Hydr8 is HYDR number 8. And I'm happy to say that Ralph and Hydr8 are not only a friend of the firm, but a partner of the firm. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Chris. So good to be here. Thanks so much for having us.
You know, as I said to you, Ralph, we've known each other and done some business together for the last few years. I mean, you've done great work for us. And not only do I love the service that you guys provide us and keep our employees happy, but I love some of the things you're doing on the sustainability and wellness side as well. So I'd love to just get the opportunity to introduce you to other folks and tell them what you do and all the great things you do for us.
Yeah, appreciate that. Of course, appreciate the business and of course your personal recommendation is just it's invaluable, frankly. So really do appreciate you, my friend, personally and professionally. And the company is doing well, thankfully. We are focused on, as you mentioned, on sustainability. In fact, about 8 months ago, we're in business now almost 8 years, but it was only about 8 months ago that we launched the Zero Waste Pantry, and we are the first to market. We're trademarked and patent pending on the Zero Waste Pantry itself. And what does that mean? It means that all assets and all products that we provide in the corporate break room net zero waste to landfill for everything that is customer facing. So everything that would include water, coffee, ice, snacks, disposables, sparkling water. We even have a way of consolidating soda cans now. So it's a really neat little one-stop shop that we've created, and it seems to be working out quite well over the last few months. So we're really excited about it.
Well, we were too. I mean, we had another vendor for a number of years until we got together a few years ago, and I got to tell you that it really makes a difference, I think, in the morale of the office to go into the kitchen and grab some, really top shelf coffee, or to use the water cooler, which is not just a water cooler, but we get carbonated beverage out of it. I mean, it's these little things, I think, that really, create, a little bit more happiness in the office. And if we can do it in a way that's a little bit, softer on the earth, even better.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Truth be told, I believe that water and coffee should be there to help you do your job, not be a part of it. So as you mentioned, these kind of little things that really are there to help you guys do what you do so well. And I think that's one of the things that kind of excites me about my business in a way is that I kind of, in a small way, if you will, partner with each of the firms that we work with and work for to help them do what they do so well, which is obviously serve the communities at large. We work with everyone, hotels, hospitals, education, healthcare, great law firms like yours. And the idea is, like I said, just to make sure that we are supporting the work that you guys do. And I think it's thoughtful that we do this in a very sustainable way. And of course, it's about showing up and servicing people in a timely fashion. Which I find that most of my competition seems to really not have much of a focus on or isn't nimble enough perhaps to get to these accounts quickly. And folks have just learned to live with that. Like if you have 3, 4, 5, 6 days without a machine working, they kind of say like, oh, they show up and they come, about a week later. I think that's way too long. If you have a water machine you're paying monthly for, or a coffee brewer, especially coffee, my goodness, you can't go a day or two without coffee. Now that would be harsh on especially lawyers that have to think and they have to work and they have to focus. So it's really incumbent upon us to make sure that we're really proactive instead of reactive as it relates to service. And if there is a problem that kind of, happens in an instant, it's up to us to show up within a very timely fashion, which I would consider to be 24 hours. So that is really kind of the backbone of who we are, is a service company. So sustainability is great. wellness. I can get into a little bit about the technology that makes this like water cooler, for example, not just a water cooler, as you pointed out. But really it's a matter of backing you guys up and making sure that you're getting basically a return on investment in that the machines are not only working, but providing for you some value at the end of the day that hopefully helps people do their job better. And that's where the return would come in. So hopefully that's been, and it sounds like it's been your experience, and the other 2,000 or so customers that we service, hopefully has been theirs as well.
Yeah, it's definitely been our experience. This is where our businesses overlap. We're a services business at the end of the day, and clients expect, prompt turnaround. And I don't think we're a harsh customer to deal with, but, we kind of expect you to live up to whatever you're saying. And, that's one of the things we like about Hydr8 is that every time we call, you're there in less than 24 hours every time we've experienced it. So it really keeps us humming for sure. What's funny is that an old friend of mine, came on as a lateral partner a few years ago, and she was talking to a couple of law firms, and she still jokes about it, but I think it did make an impression. She said, "You guys had way better coffee than the other place," and that's what kind of pushed her along. So.
Can you imagine? I mean, if that were, and it's interesting because, post-pandemic, folks, of course, a lot more remote culture happening. And so we've been poached by, the JLLs of the world, Cushman, et cetera, about trying to get better assets and better amenities in some of their spaces to do just that, attract people to come back to work. And I got to tell you, just personally, and this is really not a biased thing, frankly, it's just my experience. I can only speak for myself sometimes, but I look forward to going to my office, and I'm only there Mondays and Fridays. The other 3 days I'm usually out in the field meeting my customers like you. So Friday, almost like or Monday even, I percolate a little because I know I'm going to get that double espresso that I really enjoy. And so it really does have that effect when it is quality. And that's really what we firmly believe in. And so we spend a little extra to get these assets in the door. But I think truly in this industry, especially, you get what you pay for. So we kind of made a deeper investment into these quality amenities so that the end user is having the experience that you're talking about. And my gosh, if it actually has that effect that you're sharing like that, it would help somebody actually join your firm versus another, or just have them show up more eagerly to the office that day. I think that just kind of summarizes everything that I hope to get out of being the owner of this company.
Yeah, and it's working. When we moved into our office, going back to 2019, I guess it was, we looked around the market and saw a lot of crazy amenities that went as, crazy as, on-site, exercise classes by video and golf simulators and stuff. And that seems fun. Not that people really use them so much. It's it's the really basic, important, central things like that you guys provide that are really important to employees, I think.
Yeah, I think, some of those things you mentioned are cool. What I've learned from those things is they can be kind of like novelties after a while, and they kind of lose their luster. There was a gal we almost hired that had this like great little ice cream maker. And what she said was like, it works better for her in like airports because people are always passing through and they'll use it because they're just passing through. But when it's an everyday place, like a place of business, it tends to drop off in terms of the volume and usage after a while. Whereas sometimes coffee and snacks and of course, water, those items, those are staples. They're, as you put it, basic in a way. But our challenge has been to sort of decommoditize that space so that we can give people, something more than just a cup of coffee or more than a cup of water, that they would actually be better off from having used it. And that's kind of where the technology comes in a little bit, and why we've worked with certain manufacturers over others. It has everything to do with either the filter process that goes behind it, it's more extensive, or if it's more of a bean to cup coffee unit as opposed to, one of the K-cup types units. I think it's the night and day quality, and that makes the experience what it is. So it's really imperative that we constantly look to innovate and work with latest and greatest in terms of these manufacturers, so that you and yours are given the best experience, like you said, possible. So that's what we're focused on.
And, the benefits of drinking water throughout the day, I think nobody can argue with that. But what are some of the other wellness factors that you consider, or that wellness benefits that you see from using the equipment?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would be remiss to not start with the water. It's kind of been our backbone, and of course, drinking water throughout the day, as you put it, it's kind of have its benefit. We should be drinking about half of our body's weight in ounces per day. So I'm 6'3", 210 pounds or so. I should be drinking about 105 ounces of water each day. And not just water. There's something very important to note about water itself is that when you package water, let's say in a plastic bottle, not only is it going to absorb its surroundings, in that case plastic, but the molecular shape of water actually can change, especially over time, and therefore the health benefit. So effectively, and most people probably don't know this, water in terms of its health properties can actually expire, that it actually would die in effect, because water is a living thing. You really don't want to have it packaged for very long. Intentionally, I think the way water was created was that we drink it out of a fresh flowing source like a river or a stream. Naturally, we've screwed that up over time, and even our fresh flowing tap water in many parts of the city and surrounding areas has been tainted by infrastructural aging and just other pollutants that we've put in our water, even pharmaceuticals. Trace amounts of those are found. PFAS, if you're familiar with that, has become a really critical issue, especially in the great state of New Jersey. So just to kind of bring it full circle, what we do is we work off of the end of the pipe. These are called point of use systems, because at the point of use, that is when the purification or sort of the magic happens, where the water, irrespective of where it comes from, is going to end up purified to the bacterial level. So there are different levels of filtration. People, I've got a filter, I'm doing all right. Well, you've got a Brita filter, right? Let's just say, and nothing against Brita, but it's really very basic because it's only taking out certain elements like dirt, rust, and silt. Everything else I just mentioned, lead, mercury, arsenic, PFAS, pharmaceuticals, these things are all getting through. So if you're not doing enough effectively to remove those harmful agents, you're drinking it. So to your original statement about drinking water all day long has got its health benefits, it's true, except if you're drinking your water chunky, as I put it, because if you're adding in all of these heavy metals or chemicals or organic material, you are now absorbing that. And of course, our bodies are wonderful places that are going to filter them out on our own. But of course, the older we get too, the harder that process becomes and the more of a burden we're putting on our livers and our intestine lining, et cetera. So what we've done is we have a proprietary set of filters that goes through anywhere from 4 to 7 stages, depending upon how fancy you want to get. And the end goal and the end, I can get into the filters themselves, but I don't want to bore the audience. But at the end of the day, the best cup of water would have nothing but H2O and electrolytes. You don't want anything else. You don't need anything else, of course, in your water. So the electrolytes being calcium, potassium, magnesium, and sodium, our water stations will yield unlimited amounts of cold and hot and sparkling, in your case, water that is both purified of any of these harmful agents and induced with these electrolytes, giving you not only the cleanest cup of water, but also the healthiest cup of water. And that has also been the second moniker of our business, sustainability being one, but wellness being number 2, and then service being the third, is kind of the triumvirate of what we do every day and what we're hyper-focused on. So in the water respect, that's kind of a little bit about how it's done. And I can get into the other stuff, but I don't want to be too long-winded. So does that kind of address the question that you brought up?
Yeah, it does. It does. And, I got to tell you that the water tastes good as well. And that's always a challenge, especially in northern New Jersey, where even under the best of circumstances, you got a lot pretty hard water. So it really creates a nice product.
And it's great that you mentioned hard water too, because anybody who lives in and around New Jersey in most parts, or Long Island, or even north of the city in many cases, the water is harder, as you put it. And we do measure the hardness of water when we go into any facility. So I have a TDS meter. It's a really simple, neat little test that I run, and I show folks a number. And the higher the number, the harder the water. I was up in Bergen County recently. I won't name the school that I was in, but the water there was over 300 TDS, and that's measured in parts per million. And ideal drinking water is less than 50. And then 10 is considered laboratory grade. So we tested their water was 300, and then our water, which was down to 24, from 300. And that 24 also was representative of the electrolytes. So not all solids are bad. In this case, the electrolytes, the minerals, are good. And so we don't like zero water. That's never the goal. Zero water would actually cause water to pull minerals from your body, which is interesting because you think, oh, just pure H2O, that's got to be great. There's actually a company out there called Zero Water. And I have particular issue with having no solids in the water. In fact, the greatest water source in the world might be found in the mountains of France, where the TDS is like around 1,000, but it's all magnesium.
All right.
So not all solids are bad, but when you find it from a municipal source, it actually tends to be harmful because of the stuff that we can find in it, the stuff I mentioned earlier. So the hardness, that is removed by a process called reverse osmosis. If you go back to your 10th grade chemistry class, or if you are living probably in New Jersey, most people are more familiar with that than they are in New York City, for example, because the water isn't quite as hard, not nearly as hard in many cases in Manhattan. So the fact is that that hard water, it needs to be softened, and RO is the most thorough process the world over to purify or really soften water down to almost zero. And then, like I said, we add those good electrolytes back in, giving it some mineral count. So yeah, it's a big challenge in New Jersey. I would love to be able to flexibly service homes because I would have thousands of orders in the next few days, but it is a big stressor on our service department to have to install units in homes everywhere where the juice also isn't quite worth the squeeze. So I'm actually working on a DIY setup where, hey, Chris, you need this for your home. Let me just ship it to you, give you an easy way to connect it. Done. And now your home is set up like your office would be. And my technicians technically don't have to show up and do that. So just to look behind the scenes, but it's something I'm working on because I have a, goal to service homes. I want to see people healthier. I want to see our water redeemed. This would be one way to go about that. And yeah, I'd love to figure out a way to really execute on it. So something I'm working on.
Yeah, good luck. It's nice to pull the cover off and see what's coming down the pike.
Yeah, a lot going on behind the scenes.
What else do you see in the pipeline over the next year or so? Anything special?
Well, we continue to expand and grow our footprint. Like I said, with the zero waste pantry in place, all of a sudden we're really dealing with some of the world's largest firms. We're taking meetings with some of the biggest companies in the world. And of course, thankfully, we're in New York, so they all live here in some way, whether they're headquartered or not. So over the next year or two, we plan on expanding the, zero waste pantry to, thousands more. Hopefully in the next 2 years, we'll be up to over, close to 10,000 machines in the field total. That would include water and coffee assets. But the disposable line, and everything associated with that is become a little bit made us more of a one-stop shop. So I think we provide a lot of value in that because accounts payable only has to deal with one firm. And, there's one, as my friend likes to put it not so eloquently, there's one throat to choke when there's a service issue. You can just call us and we'll take care of everything in your break room. But if I may, the cherry on top, I think, of what we're doing right now, and I think what's going to help firms really enjoy who we are and what we're doing is we provide metrics each and every quarter to these businesses that we're working with. Giving them an idea, if they're using the zero waste pantry, giving them an idea of the impact that they're making environmentally. So we can tell them everything from kilowatt hour reduction to CO2 emissions to plastic tons diverted from landfill. And if you're in a larger building in Manhattan, there's local laws in place now, Local Law 97. For folks that are familiar with that, it's, buildings of over 25,000 square feet have to report their emissions to the building landlord, who then has to pass it off to either the city or the SEC if they're publicly traded. And so we're partnering with these firms in that way because we're able to do sort of some of this legwork for them. Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3 emissions are now being required of some of these businesses to report. And frankly, most people don't know where to begin or how to deal with it. Luckily for me, I've hired a great guy, RJ being Cully, who came from Emerald brand. That's our disposable line that we distribute for. And he was able to create an algorithm associated with that impact and work with the manufacturers on deriving these metrics so that we can provide a report quarterly, and then the firm can do with it what they need to, or just use it to tell a corporate story about kind of what we're doing now to be more eco-friendly and responsible, and just kind of fills that whole ESG line that has become increasingly more of a need and more popularized. So we're hoping to just continue to partner with firms, and I think the bigger the firm, the more they tend to really care and need to make these these decisions and these impactful moves. So that's why I think we're seeing a lot more movement in the bigger banks and the bigger law firms and so on. And it's been great for our business, of course, and we're just always focused on keeping up with the demand and the needs that are ever abounding as a result. So that's kind of what I see coming in the next year or two.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal story. And what I like also is that not only are you hitting that important issue, but at the same time, the costs are competitive. It's not like we're paying a premium for it. So congratulations on figuring out that equation.
Not an easy thing, especially these days. We're all dealing with this probably similar economic challenges and headwinds. I was grateful that they paused congestion pricing for now. That was one tremendous expense that my vans and my trucks did not need to take on. So that helps. But yeah, we do definitely aim to make things as economical as possible for our clients. It can be sometimes more expensive than the average filtration device, but look, if I could put it in layman's terms, you don't need to be a water nerd like me to know that 5 or 6 filters are better than one. And so when I actually compare the pricing, if my unit goes, let's say for $100 for a hot and cold machine, but I have 7 or 5 stages even of filtration, and you're paying for one filter and you're paying $40, you're actually paying $40 per filter, whereas mine is actually $20 per filter, and you're getting much healthier water, much better response on service, and a better quality looking and tasting machine, as you pointed out. So I think the value equation isn't always just the bottom line. It's a matter of, kind of what you're getting out of the circumstance as well. And if your goals are to achieve wellness, and to get a really great service, I think you'd be hard pressed to find many firms that do care as much as we do. That's just I've been doing this for 17 years.
Oh, yeah.
So I kind of have an idea of the industry. And that's what we can see. Yeah.
And just so we're clear, by the way, I was saying that you actually are competitive price-wise with the lesser machines and the lesser services. So you're sort of hitting it on all notes. Yeah. And sometimes
if you're using bottled water, we're cheaper. If you're using K-cups, we're cheaper. So I think it's interesting because you can, with one turnkey, be more sustainable, healthier, and economical. If you're using some of those type of disposables, or single-use plastic or heavy 5-gallon jugs still, not only are those things more expensive and not as sustainable, but they're antiquated, and it's archaic in many ways to have to do water or do coffee in sort of these manual, laborious ways. You have the 18-wheel trucks driving across state lines to get you a bottle of water. I mean, I could just take the existing water source and redeem it back to where you'd want it to be, and never run out, or never worry about deliveries or storage or things of that nature. So in that respect, Chris, we're actually I want to say a no-brainer because it's just cheaper and healthier and more sustainable. So I love those opportunities.
Yeah, that's a great message for sure, Ralph.
Thanks. Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot for sharing today and letting me get a chance to expose Hydr8 to folks, out there in our network.
I can't thank you enough. For me, it's always a matter as a CEO. It's like, keeps me up is like wondering if people know we exist and, kind of, that we can be of service in such ways. So obviously it is invaluable to get the word out, especially through great guys like you and your network. And, again, I can't just thank you enough for having us on.
Well, it was absolutely my pleasure. And again, thanks for sharing all that information as well. If being I'm not sure I would call you a water nerd, but those great information for sure. So,
hey, I've been called worse. I'll take it. It's when they call me water boy and stuff like that I'm like, okay, can I at least be water man? No, Aquaman, even get some superpowers.
Well, that's pushing it, because then you're going to have to be able to swim underwater, for miles and miles.
No, I can't. Only for a certain bit.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Well, listen, thanks again. So we'll close it out for today by just letting everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, great. Definitely the web, like everybody's got a website. Mine is HYDR, the number 8, spelled phonetically, .us. We do have the ability to service the entire US, so we've kept that in the name. So it's Hydr8, HYDR, the number 8, .us. And also, if you want to reach me personally, my email is Ralph, RALPH, at hydr8.us.
Terrific. Well, right, Ralph, thanks so much for a great discussion. And This has been Chris Santomassimo sitting here today with my friend Ralph Marucci, the CEO and co-founder of Hydr8. And we'll see you next time on the Think Factory podcast.